Meat Boy MMA has the content. Except for the beef and meat, indeed.
3, 2, 1, go.
Let's go, boys. Episode 203. You saw the guru. Head to the comments if you need any timestamps and are trying to get straight to the locks for this week. But nonetheless, Meat Boy, last week was UFC 312. The card was kind of a snoozer. Start to finish wasn't the greatest, and definitely an unenviable purchase for anyone who did buckle up and buy that pay-per-view. But nonetheless, MEATLOCK cashed with ease. Not too much to recap, but do want to talk to you about DDP versus Sean Strickland. We called it. We said it was going to be easy, light work. It was essentially 5-0. One judge gave one round to Sean Strickland, but the other two had it all 5 for DDP, and he broke his nose in the third round. Sean was really just kind of stupefied, mystified on the feet, didn't do anything for the entire 25-minute duration. What were your thoughts on getting the MEATLOCK back on track? Easy, light work.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of exactly what we predicted, where Strickland was going to absolutely buckle and get absolutely exposed for being a fake alpha, because Dricus is the real alpha, and we saw that.
Yeah, lost at sea indeed, and a couple other interesting nuggets from UFC 312. You definitely called Bro Puria. I thought that Colby Thickness might get that done. He absolutely did not. We both went 2 and 3, so it wasn't really a great result for either of us across the board. But the MEATLOCK did cash with ease. The one that I called that you missed, I took Jake Matthews over Francisco Prado. It was a good fight, but Prado seems like one of those kind of tweener guys, Kevin Lee style, right? Like he's going to be too big for 55, too small for 70. Great fighter, but just doesn't really have a weight class. So, anything else stand out to you from last week, or are you trying to head straight to the Robocannon?
Yeah, let's get right into the Robocannon. I think this card arguably might be a little better than last week's card, which is surprising.
I was literally just going to say that this card probably is a little bit better than last week's. Obviously, the title fight from last week, both of them pretty sweet, but you had Justin Taffa getting slept in 30 seconds, 3 fights from the top. I mean, for a pay-per-view, it was truly abysmal, but this one's interesting. We're kicking things off with this MEATLOCK, and it's another meat event MEATLOCK because we like the homie Robocop in this one to continue his win streak. The dude has won 3 straight. He's won 5 of 6. He got YOLO slept by Bruno Fajeda in that one fight where he was basically dominating and then just took the stiffest jab and it slept him light work. But since then, he's been much more defensively sound and has been putting dudes lights out. He won a decision most recently, but that was against CLD License in a fight that a lot of people thought Leroy Duncan would get done, but Robocop came through and really got it done with ease. So he's taking on Killer Gorilla, who obviously at one point the dude was a former middleweight title challenger, got smoked, and since then it hasn't been great. He's lost 2 straight. He's a plus 185 dog, and he's 40 years old in this one, having come off 2 straight pretty bad L's. So, what are your thoughts on this MEATLOCK? How does Robocop get this one done? And is Robocop going to be in sort of the Imavov territory as far as like next potential 185 title challengers this year?
Yeah, I really do think RoboCop is going to be that guy. RoboCop is an absolute lock. He's on such a great trajectory and momentum on his career right now. He's low key kind of peaking. He's looking great, dominant, strong. Cardio looks good, grappling looks good. His striking is impeccable, and he's an absolute savage. He throws absolute bombs. And Jared Cannonier, RoboCop's 32. Cannonier's 40, like Jared Cannonier is no joke, Killer Gorilla, but he got knocked out by Imavov, fake questionable on if that was stopped too early or not. I think it was a good stoppage, but lost to Imavov and then lost to Bahilio. The question is Robocop as good as Bahilio and Imavov? I would say yes. I think he's right there. I think he take those guys on a good day, and so I think he's gonna make light work of Jared. I know Jared's pretty strong, but Gregory just seems to have this freakish strength. So wherever this fight goes, I just think Gregory's going to have the advantage with his youth, his reach, his size, his strength, grappling, speed, etc. He's going to get it done light work.
Yeah, you mentioned the size. The dude is absolutely massive, right? 6'3", 75-inch reach, and Killer Gorilla is well under 6 feet. And Robocop, you mentioned, just super well-rounded, right? This guy has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and that's sort of his foundation, yet only has 3 submissions, and a majority of his victories come by KO. So the dude is super well-rounded, and like you said, is just kind of peaking at the right time, whereas Killer Gorilla the sort of writing is on the wall for where his career is going, at least as far as the UFC is concerned. I mean, perhaps he can go immediately challenge Luke Rockhold for a GFL belt, but as far as the UFC and in this division specifically, I think it's the end of the road for the Killer Gorilla. And Tapology agrees they're rolling with the Meatlock just like they did DDP last week. 72% go with Robocop, only 28% go with the Killer Gorilla, and majority is Brown. So, do you agree with Tapology that Robocop likely gets a KO finish in this one?
Yeah, I kind of do think. I mean, if Imavov can drop him, get the TKO, RoboCop hits harder than many people. So if he connects real good, he's gonna get a KO. But I think he will get the TKO at least.
Yeah, I buy that too, and maybe he even gets a sneaky submission if there's some grappling in this contest and he goes back to that bread and butter. I mean, we haven't seen Killer Gorilla get submitted, but that to me just means that he's due. So let us know in the comments if you agree with this week's Meatlock. We're keeping it simple, throwing down an easy 225 to net 100. It's a bet minimum similar to the DDP lock of last week, but we're keeping it simple, keeping the Meatlock streak alive, and officially I'll go RoboCop finish. I like third round submission. I kind of hope this fight goes into the fourth and fifth round, though, because we're really going to find out how good Gregory Rodriguez is if he's still as dangerous late as he is early. Because if somehow he's more gassed out than a 40-year-old Cannoneer in the championship rounds, that to me will be a discouraging sign for his title prospects. But I think that he is in that Imavov, that Kyle Bahalio territory, as you mentioned, and he'll find a way to get this one done over the aging veteran. So third round sub is the Meatlock Robocop call for me. You're going
Yeah, I'm going RoboCop second round.
second round. I'll go third. It's the Meatlock for a reason, though. Let us know in the text in the comments below if you are rolling with the Meatlock this one or if you are sitting on the bench. But swap us through, Meat Boy, because you saw the intro. This one's interesting. It's kind of the only interesting fight that we picked from the prelims to break down. It's chaos. It's just the beginning. Williams taking on Gabriel Bonfim, your boy Bonfim, who is 3-1 in the UFC. He's a decent favorite in this one, minus 218, and is coming off a nice recent win over Ange Lusa, who is a known quitter. And Chaos Williams, meanwhile, is a sneaky 6-2, a plus 180 dog though. And this is a guy who has spoiled meatlocks, I believe, for us. I don't want to say we meatlock Carlston Harris, but we might have, and he ultimately got slept by Chaos, and a lot of other fighters have as well. I mean, I think back to that Abdul Razak Al Hassan fight, or when Carmel Thunder got absolutely smoked. I mean, Chaos Williams is a guy who loves to come in, especially as a dog, and finish you if you're half asleep, and seemingly gets no love from the odds makers. And even though he has more UFC experience and double UFC wins, he's a pretty decent dog in this one against Bonfim. So are you staying on the Bonfim hype train? I mean, I know you're all over the Basher Rats, you're all over the Bonfim bros. Is Gabriel Bonfim on the prelims going to start things off?
I think Bonfim is going to start it off. I think the Bonfim Bros, they've had an L here to start it off in the UFC for. It ain't looking too good, but now they're kind of bouncing back, looking a little better. And, some of these guys, they lose one and then they learn massively and they level up. And I think the Bonfim Bros are one of those guys. I think he's going to, I think he's going to get a KO early and often. It should be a fun fight, but I'm going to take Bonfim. But the odds, I don't really like those odds because he hasn't really proven himself to be a 2-1 favorite. He should be a little bit less in my opinion, but I think Bonfim he should get it done, but we'll see.
Yeah, and oftentimes we do the we create a dual association, right? The Bonfim Bros, right? There's two of them, Gabriel Bonfim and there's Ishmael Bonfim. But I guess my biggest question is, we know Ishmael is kicking off the main card on this UFC event, and meanwhile Gabriel Bonfim is on the early prelims. So these are some fights that are in between the Bonfim Bros making their appearances this Saturday, meat boy. Jose Delgado versus Connor Matthews, Angela Hill versus Ketlin Souza, Jared Flash Gordon versus Mazrubjan Rujiboev, Rafael Estevan versus Jesus Aguilar. I mean, these are some of the fighters that are fighting before Gabriel Bonfim. So I guess my question is it time that we separate Gabriel from Ishmael and realize that maybe Ishmael is deserving of the hype, but Gabriel is a prelim warrior?
Gabriel definitely might be a prelim warrior, but we'll see after this weekend if he can get a spectacular finish in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, maybe the UFC is just tempering their expectations and is just a little bit more bullish on the other, when in reality they should be bullish on both. But I don't know, meat boy. I've been fading Chaos Williams too many times, and it comes to bite me often. So I'm gonna roll with the Bonfim Bros are still overrated. At least the one on the early prelims is, and I'm taking Chaos Williams as a plus 180 dog. I don't know if he gets a finish in this one, but maybe he sneaks out a decision, wins the first and third round. I don't know. Something tells me that Chaos finds a way against at least this Bonfim, but I'm always willing to change my mind. And if Bonfim goes out there and sleeps Chaos easy light work, then to me that's an amazing victory because this is a guy who doesn't get finished. He never has in the UFC. So let's see what Gabriel is made of, and if he is maybe even prelim worthy as opposed to not just these early prelims. But I'll take the homie Chaos officially. You like Bonfim by finish?
Yeah, I like Bonfim by finish first round.
Let us know if you're all over this Bonfim or both, but nonetheless, you boys swap us through because I feel like this card's top to bottom is just fixed with your boys. I mean, this is another one, Andre Petrosky, who 12-3 overall, 7-2 in the UFC, is a pretty decent dog in this one, despite having righted his ship a little bit, right? I think a lot of people started to write him off. He lost two straight, got finished in both of them, never even saw a third round, but of recent, the UFC really sort of built him back from scratch as far as like getting him winnable opponents. He gets Josh Fremd, gets the unanimous decision. He gets Dylan Budka, arguably worse, gets the decision there as well. So it's been nice for Petrosky to right the ship, but he's taken on Adolfo Vieira, who is 5-2 in the UFC and seemingly is just now coming into his own. I mean, if we think all the way back to like early 2021, he was undefeated, had all the hype. People thought he would be likely a title challenger within the next 18 months, and then Fluffy Hernandez smoked him, and Chris Curtis absolutely destroyed him about a year later. So it's been good for Rodolfo to get back on track, but you can make the argument that the UFC gave him some winnable opponents as well, namely in Cody Brundage and Armin Petrosian. So what do you make out of this one? Do you like the matchmaking, and do you see this as a potential plus 205 dog opportunity for Petrosky, who is a guy that you've cashed in on many times before?
Yeah, this is a fun one, a great one. I like both these guys. I always ride for both these guys, but man, I'm just so torn. But I think I gotta go with the Spartan in this one. He's probably gonna lose, but I gotta ride and die for the body bag team. I'm always picking Sean Brady, Petrosky, and body bags, but I don't know. Spartan just tells me that he's got something up his sleeve and he's gonna get it done. I do worry that his striking hasn't improved and he might lose on the feet or he might even get submitted. That would be a big yikes. But I think I gotta take the Spartan Petrosky.
I thought for a second that you might fade the homie, but I'd be silly to think that you would ever pick against Andre Petrosky. But one thing I did find fascinating about this matchup, me boy, is that if I asked you who was older, for some reason I would have thought that Petrosky was a couple years older than Vieira, but it's actually the opposite. And the black belt hunter is about to be 36, just turned 33 is Petrosky, so arguably Andre could still be in his peak. You mentioned the stand up. Do you think that this fight does remain on the feet? And for as long as it does, who do you see having the advantage? Because I feel like Vieira really made some pronounced improvements, especially in the stand up department against Petrosian. And he at one point looked sort of like a fish out of water and desperate to just cling to a leg and take you down, whatever cost necessary. But recently he seemed a little bit more comfortable on the feet. So for as long as this fight is a stand-up affair, who do you like in that department?
Yeah, honestly, I think man, I would like to say Spartan might have it, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. I'm hoping that he does his ground and pound and does not get submitted, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, when this fight hits the ground too, like I think Vieira's gonna have the advantage, but I mean, maybe this in some world is similar to Fluffy Hernandez versus Vieira, and the MMA grappling of Petrosky is slightly better than Rodolfo's. I don't know. That to me seems like a stretch. Tapology's overwhelmingly bullish on the black belt hunter. They think that the body bag's teammate black belt is coming back to Rio de Janeiro, and 83%, again, most of it is copper for the sub. Only 17 is going with Petrosky. If you're taking Andre, is it a snoozer of a decision, or are you taking him to finish the black belt hunter?
You know, man, I hate saying this, but it might be a snoozer for a decision, to be honest. I think this is gonna be a long, gruesome battle. I think it might be pretty close, but I think the Spartan might just have what it takes to edge it out at the end.
far decisions where meat is going, I'm gonna go Rodolfo decision, but I kind of think this could be a snoozer, and maybe neither of these guys get a finish. And ultimately, it's not a great fight. But if Vieira goes out and gets an easy light work sub, that wouldn't be crazy to me either. But Petrosky's on a nice win streak. He's back on track seemingly, so maybe he's ready to dispatch of this hype beast. But for my money, I got Vieira decision. You got Petrosky decision. Swap us through, Meat Boy, because this one is also fascinating. It's the other Bond theme, the main card Bond theme, Ishmael specifically, and this dude has been looking good, right? His only one loss in the UFC was against BSD Movement, and that was against a peak Benoit, right? This was pre-Benoit falling off a cliff, but nonetheless, his wins are nice, right? Vince Pichel got absolutely smoked. Terrence McKinney got finished with just a beautiful flying knee, probably the sweetest Bond theme finish we've seen to date, and the dude just is looking good in those wins, and he's taking on Sadikov, who is another guy who only has the one professional loss. The last time we saw him was kind of a strange one against Slavaclaus, ended up being a majority decision, but he too got a second round finish over Terrence McKinney as well. So I love the matchmaking in this one. Two dudes who slept T-Rex and now get to face off on a main card in this one. Are you taking the other Bonfim brother, the main card variety, or is Sadikov coming as a plus 170 dog to get this done?
Yeah, no, man, it's hard to go against the double bomb fiends on the same card. I feel like both these guys are going to get it done. Um, Now, one bomb theme is way better than the other bond, and I think this is that bond. I think this is the better one of the two, but I still think they both have this down. I think this is going to be a double W for the bros.
Yeah, I'm definitely more bullish on main card bomb theme, aka Maheta, for sure, than I am his brother. But in this one against Sadikov, I mean, it's not overwhelmingly bullish on topology metrics for sure. The majority obviously is going with Maheta, but it's 65%, 35% going with Sadikov. It's beige on both sides though, so they think that whoever wins this fight, it's likely a decision. Do you buy that, or do you see a world where Bonfim maybe gets an impressive finish like he did over McKinney?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to get a KO in spectacular fashion. Now, how quick is it? I guess we'll see. But I think it will be, in the first or second round. The longer the fight goes, I think it's going to not be good for him, but he should get it done early and often.
Yeah, he's been kind of a decision merchant throughout his UFC tenure and his professional tenure at large, but maybe he's due for a finish. So that's where I'll go, Meat Boy. I'll trust that the matchmakers know which Bond theme to put on the main card. And when it comes to one of them making a statement, I'll take my head to get a finish in this one over the Black Wolf. I'm going to go second round TKO in a fight that hopefully isn't that close because I want one of these guys to emerge and sort of claim the hype that they've been getting for kind of a while now. So I like Bond theme, second round finish. What's your official take?
Yeah, I'm going to take Bomb Theme first round finish.
First and second round. Let us know if you're back in Sadikov and we're tripping on the bottom themes. But nonetheless, Mean Boy, a couple to go. Another fan favorite. It's Edmund Shabazian, a minus 360 favorite, which obviously is a sketchy idea just at face value. And he's 13-5. This dude has lost 4 of 5 of 7 UFC fights. I mean, it's been a rough. Basically, everything since 2020 has been pretty rough, right? He has 2 wins. AJ Dobson got slept. Dolce not champion got slept, but everyone else he's really gotten smoked. And if you inspect the L's, I mean, it's a lot of tough fighters. Brunson when he was still doing it, Jack Hermanson, Imavov who's peaking obviously, Fluffy Hernandez, and GM3 who basically beats everyone who isn't a top 15er. So it's not like Edmund is going out and losing to bad fighters. And when they do feed him the cans, the Dobsons, the Dolces, he does get it done. So in this one, he's taking on arguably a can and Dylan Budka. 7-4, just got smoked by Petrosky, easy light work, and a plus 285 dog for a reason against even a fighter like Edmund Shabazian. So in this fight, any chance Edmund is gonna lose this fight, and perhaps Dylan Budka is worthy of the conversation, the upper echelon conversations, or is the mindless Hulk simply a can, just like AJ Dobson?
He definitely could be a, a mindless Hulk like AJ Dobson, but I don't know. He might be just a AJ Dobson mindless Hulk, to be honest.
With that being said, Meepo, I mean, are you taking him? Because I mean, I know you don't love it taking Edmund Shabazian. He's burned you many times before. I mean, I think back to when we saw him fight live at MSG, and really some crazy stuff went down there. But he did get a W. So, are you taking Shabazian to get back on your good side, or are you really going to roll with the mindless Hulk? And just to sort of give you some context, only 6% is going with the mindless Hulk, 94% going with Shabazian, and they basically all think it's a KO finish. So. Are you fading 94% of Tapology and taking the mindless Hulk, or is it Golden Boy season again for you?
Yeah, Golden Boy. It's really rough to take Golden Boy, especially at these kind of odds after getting beat by GM3. I mean, yeah, he does beat a lot of the top guys that are not in top 15, but it's like, come on, Ed, you got to be better than that. And Budka might actually get this one done. And Budka's pretty bad in himself. I I don't know. This is a 50-50 for me. I'm gonna go with Budka and fade the Bozzy Bum. He's gotta earn my respect. I gotta see him get a W before I pick him again. And the AJ Dobson win, just that one, it wasn't like, oh, Edmund's back. It's like, yikes. Glad Edmund got it done early because it was looking bad for him right in the beginning. So I think this is one of those big upsets. I just can't believe the odds are this. They really should be a pick 'em because both these guys are pretty bad.
Yeah, truly insane stuff. Picking the mindless Hulk, Dylan Budka, but honestly, you'll probably be the only one in the YouTube prediction sphere going that route. So if and when mindless Hulk finds a way to get this one done, then we'll have to make a short out of that one because you'll be the only one calling it for sure. I'm gonna have to roll with Shabazian. I like the decision though. I think you said Budka by decision. I'll go Shabazian by decision because all the Tapology backers, all the money's gonna be on. Ooh, Golden Boy's gonna get a golden KO over the mindless Hulk, but one thing Miles Hulk does have is toughness. He's got grit. His gas tank is pretty solid. So I see a world where he maybe survives, but is just a little bit worse in probably every arena for all 3 rounds. So I like Shabazian by decision. And if there's plus 250 ish or upwards, I actually think that's pretty decent value. I think this fight goes the distance for sure. And I got to fade you on the mindless Hulk, meat boy. But if you call that, that's a beautiful thing for sure. I got Golden Boy decision. Any last thoughts on this meet down? And are you stoked for it?
Oh yeah, super stoked compared to last week's bout, but am I stoked as a whole? Not really. These two cards are pretty abysmal, but we will take them. This is a free 99 one with a subscription, of course, but no pay per view. And it's probably be a better output than the pay per view last week. So I am kind of stoked, but kind of.
Yeah, I don't blame you for sure. And one to go, meat boy. Swap us through. It's your boy Calvin Cater taking on Yusuf Zalal, and we were struck immediately by the odds in this one. Calvin Cater is getting zero left from the odds makers, plus 320, minus 410 is Yusuf Zalal, and Zalal's kind of got a unique story, right? I mean, the dude is 6-3-1 overall in the UFC, but gotta remember he had that hiatus, right? The UFC cut him after things went south. He didn't win in 4 straight UFC contests, and ultimately he goes over to Sparta Combat, gets a bunch of amazing finishes, and comes back to the UFC seemingly reborn, a completely different version of himself. And he's gotten 3 easy light work finishes, 2 performances of the night, and the guy's really been looking impressive. He's not getting hit at all. He's taking 0 damage, and he's really going out there and dominating guys. So I think the odds makers are obviously sold on what he's done recently and are discouraged by what Cater has done recently, which is lost 4 of 5. He's lost 3 straight. The only time he's looked good in the last couple of years was in that beautiful fight of the night victory over Giga when he was a fat dog and essentially just spoiled the hype train that was Giga Chikadze. And everyone sort of thought, ooh, maybe Calvin's 1 or 2 fights away from the belt, but he loses that close split decision to Emmett in a razor thin fight of the night, and then from there gets finished by Arnold Allen and decision by Aljo. So what do you make of this one? Do you think the odds makers are sleeping on Calvin Cater and at plus 320 there might be some dog life there, or are you convinced that Yusuf Zalal and this Yusuf Zalal 2.0 perhaps is a title challenger in the next 18 months?
Yeah, Yusuf Zalal has definitely been looking pretty dang nice recently. But title challenger, I don't know. We'll see if he can get through the Boston market. Uh, Now the Boston barn burner market, It's rough for the last 3 fights, but look at the guys he's been fighting: Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett, Aljamain Sterling. Like, really no shame in that, to be fair. But it just shows that Calvin Kattar ain't the guy. He ain't the top five. He ain't gonna ever break into the top five. But he might be the gatekeeper to the top five. The question is Yusuf Zalal really a top five and can beat the gatekeeper, Calvin Kattar? Because guess what? Giga Chikadze, who everyone thought was future champ, was the future GOAT, was all this stuff, he got absolutely ragdolled by Calvin Kattar. Also, I mean, his spec to Dan Ige, he's been absolutely popping off and is a true levels test. Calvin Kattar beat the brakes off him, 5 years ago. I mean, you got to think about the people that he's beat versus Zolal. This screams mass upset all over it. Like, oh wow, Zolal lost to Sean Woodson, Shangwoo Choi, Ilya Taporia. No shame in that. But then, like, oh, cool win versus Jack Shore. Is that a cool win? I don't know. I would put Giga and Dan Ige and Jeremy Stiffus way above Jack Shore. So like, Zalal really hasn't been tested. This is the first hurdle to breaking into that top 10 and eventually maybe a top 5. I'm not sold. I'm gonna pick the upset. This screams upset. This screams Boston Market. Boston Market finisher, slobber knocker, levels test.
Yeah, great stuff. A lot of points that I want to kind of dissect, and Boston Barn Burner Market can't beat that, to be honest with you. But you mentioned some of the victories of Calvin Kattar, right? You said Dan Ige, you said Jeremy Stiffus, and while both those guys that point in their career were arguably better than what Jack Shore was a couple months ago, that was 5 years ago, right? I mean, it's crazy to think that these fights in 2020 are already sort of yesterday's news, but the sport really has moved on and evolved even in just that 5 year span, which is kind of crazy thinking about because, I mean, we started doing breakdowns of COVID, right? June 2020 ish. And the game, I think, has moved on a little bit. And Calvin Kattar, if we think about it, I mean, the dude's going to be 37 in a couple weeks. And Zalal, meanwhile, is a spry 28. He's really peaking. And, you referenced those earlier losses. And I kind of want to frame a little bit differently. I mean, his first loss, Topuria, aka the champ, the GOAT. He did lose to Sungwoo Choi, Sting, which is kind of confusing, right? As soon as you bet on Sting, he's gonna get absolutely slept. But if you pick against him, he's gonna find a way to get a W. So Sting is a confusing L. I'll grant you that one. But Sean Woodson is pretty nice. I mean, Sean Woodson is, especially the last 2 years, that dude's really been dominating everyone. So those to me are actually kind of impressive losses for Zalal. Again, the Sting factor being kind of sketchy, but to me, I don't look at those losses and strike Zalal off. I'm honestly encouraged by it. And the fact that the dude's only 28, and while, yes, I think maybe even a Calvin Kattar today could beat that Jack Shore, could maybe beat that Billy Q, could maybe beat that Jarno, but I don't know if Calvin beats this Zalal. And I specifically think that the youth is going to be huge. I think the speed is going to be huge. And I think this is going to be a fight, Meat Boy, similar to the main event where the younger guy is just the much better fighter. And maybe if these dudes met the first time Zalal was in the UFC, it could have been a more competitive one. But I don't like the odds, and I can see why some might take Calvin. But for my money, I'm taking Zalal in this one, and I think he might even get a finish in this one. Depending on what the numbers look like, if you're getting better odds for a decision or better odds for a finish, is probably where I'll end up. But kind of think Zalal picks up a finish in this one. If you're taking the Boston barn burning market bomber, how do you think he gets this one done over Zalal, and does he pick up a finish?
Yeah, I think Boston Market gets a finish later in the fight. He outgrits him, ragdolls him, beats him on the feet, just out veterans him. It just screams upset with these odds. It's just like, man, you can't put the disrespect on the Cater like that. Like, if Cater got knocked out 3 times in a row, yeah, I get it. But these are arguably somewhat close, still kind of competitive. He's still in it. He doesn't get finished. It's unanimous loss. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that Zalal is ready, and this is a big loss. So until Zalal can prove it, I gotta go Cater, who has a little bit more proven credibility. They are older W's, but in my opinion, it's the safer play, especially with these odds. I'm a full DGen, so I'm picking it.
Yeah, the odds are juicy for sure, and I think a point that could bolster your argument for sure is that the type of fight that Zalal will bring Calvin Kattar will probably be similar to the fight Giga tried to bring, right? I mean, Zalal's likely going to be trying to stand and bang. Obviously, he can grapple, and I think he'd be smart to try because, I mean, his submissions have been lethal lately, and when we've seen Calvin struggle, it's really been against those grappling heavy attacks. But I like to think that this fight, at least to start, will be a sort of stand-up affair. If it does become a little bit of a grappling sesh, though, I think that probably is where Yusuf will have the advantages because the fight against Aljo did not look great for Calvin. A lot of easy light work takedowns for him. So we'll see if Zalal brings a more Aljo style game plan or a more Giga style game plan, or if he sort of mixes and matches it like Arnold Allen did. Nonetheless, I think he's going to find a way to get this one done, and I'm excited for it because either it's Calvin Kattar getting back on track, probably cutting a sweet promo, or Zalal continuing his upward trajectory and maybe getting a top 5 guy in the next couple of months. So let us know in the comments in this one. Are you taking the Boston Barn Burner market, or is the Moroccan Devil going to get this one done? We broke down 6, Meat Boy. Last week we also broke down 6. Only got to take away 5, however, because of the Jimmy Crute versus Rodolfo Balaco draw. This week we took 6. Are you going 6-0? Or are you going 5-1? Where are you at?
I'm feeling 5-1 on this one. I feel like we're definitely due. Last card was kind of a duster, especially with the draw. Like that kind of ruined it for both of us, really. We should have either got a W. I think we both were gonna get a W. Maybe not. I don't know. But I think this one we're gonna go 5-1.
Well, we both couldn't have got W because you took Balaco, I took Jimmy the Brute Crute, and ultimately we both got what we deserved, nothing. So if you're going 4-2 or 5-1 this week, I'm probably going 2-3 again. I hope I go 3-2. Haven't gone positive once in 2025, so most likely I go 1-5. But the 1W will be the Meatlock. I like this Meatlock to stay on track. Robocop for the W. Any last thoughts? UFC. What is this? UFC Robocannon episode 203.
No, I mean the title is already awesome enough, so you know it's gonna be an awesome card. Robocannon 203. Stay tuned and check out. Stay tuned for the next week video too.